What's happening, my people? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. And that's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Miss Cass, Mike Mazik, salute to everyone and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Box Story. Today, the most underrated boxers of all time. The most underrated boxers of all time. As the family today, we are right back at the beginning of another big week of boxing history. We're going to talk about today some underrated fighters, okay? Talk about why they were underrated. Anybody? Just put in the chat whether you agree they were underrated or tell me I don't know what I'm talking about or whatever. But that's what we're going to talk about today. But for the highlights of boxing history today to start the show, we are now we went all the way through the divisions from heavyweight all the way down to minimum weight. All 17 looked at the greatest boxers of all time. Today, we're going to go back to heavyweight and each day, 2 to 230. Look at the top 10 current active boxers in each division. Top 10 currently active boxers. Starting with heavyweight. So let's get into that. Highlights of boxing history. Oh. Yeah, I know all the content creators noticed today. YouTube done changed the screen around again. Man. Okay, but yeah, highlights of boxing history. Active top 10 currently active heavyweights of all time. Okay, let's get into that in a moment. I don't have the chat up. Got to be able to see the chat, you know. So who's coming in and out, see what y'all talking about. But how was everybody's weekend? We're in fight week for a big one. We got the big all-women's card Friday, headlined by Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor 3. And then Saturday is the big one. Another Riyadh season. Headlined by Edgar Berlanga, Hamza Shiraz, Sakura, and William Cepeda on the card as the co-main. Got Subriel Matias, Arnold Barboza. Great card coming up. That's Saturday. But the big one of the weekend might be the women on Friday. That is the huge, but all women's card, man. You know, women's boxing, some of the names. Katie and Amanda headlining it. Got Savannah Marshall and Shadeja Green on that bad boy. Alicia Baumgardner on there. Chantel Cameron. A whole bunch of them. So that is a great card. And that's Friday. Okay. Trying to get the chat going. Start off the weekend. So we got a big weekend of boxing. July is starting out on fire. Like I told y'all last week, the weather is heating up and boxing is heating up. Yeah. So yeah, big one this weekend. Come on, chat. You gotta be able to see the chat. Come on, man. Bear with me for a moment. Oh, shut up, phone. There it is. I got it. What's up, RP? Ray Patterson. Straight out of New Jersey. What's going on, RP? We're going to talk about some underrated boxers today. But first, for the highlight of boxing history, 2 to 2:30 segment, we're going to look at the top 10 active heavyweights. Top 10 currently at Usyk, Fury, Joshua, Dubois, Carvalho, them boys. Okay, so let's get into that. I think. And I'm not prepared. We'll be ready at 2 o'clock when the show starts. But we are almost ready. Now we're ready, okay? All right, number one. Don't have pictures of them because I didn't have some technical difficulties earlier. But number one, Alexander Usyk. We're going to use that as our picture for everybody. Fury and Usyk. Number one, currently active heavyweight, Alexander Usyk. Okay? Currently, Usyk has 23 fights, 23-0, 14 knockouts. He's an undefeated Ukrainian boxer and currently 3-belt unified, former undisputed, first ever 4-belt undisputed heavyweight champion, okay? And former 4-belt undisputed cruiserweight champion, one of the only 5 boxers to be undisputed in 2 weight classes. What's up, Mike Grimm? Mike Grimm is in the building. And we went back to heavyweight. Mike, you're going to come all the way down again, looking at the top 10 active boxers in each weight class. Usyk is number 1 at heavyweight, okay? Usyk, former 4-belt, undisputed heavyweight and cruiserweight. He won the Olympic gold medal in London in 2012 and has held the unified heavyweight championship since 2021. Usyk is the first undisputed heavyweight champion in 24 years, right? Was before the IBF stripped him. And some consider him an all-time great. And he was previously the undisputed cruiserweight champion 4-belt, winning the World Boxing Super Series and holding an unblemished record, 23-0, Alexander Usyk. Okay, number 2 at heavyweight, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, currently has 37 fights, 34 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 24 knockouts for Tyson Fury. Usyk 23-0, 1 draw, 14 knockouts. Okay, Tyson Fury. Now, he's a British boxer. He held multiple world heavyweight championships, including unified titles from 2015 to 2016, the Ring Magazine title twice between 15 and 22, and the World Boxing Council title from 2000 to 2024, before Usyk took it up off of him. Fury also held the International Boxing Organization title during his first reign as champion. Tyson Fury, number 2 active heavyweights. Number 3, Daniel Dubois. Looking at the top 10 currently active heavyweights. Number 3, Daniel Dubois, another British fighter. Okay, Daniel currently has 24 fights, 22 wins, 2 losses. Only one man's went the distance with 21 by knockout for Daniel. That is the hellacious knockout rate. That's 95.4% knockout ratio for Daniel. Wow, not bad. Not bad at all. But Daniel Dubois, nicknamed Dynamite, another British pro boxer. He's from Greenwich, London. He became the full IBF heavyweight champion in June 2024 after Usyk was stripped of the belt. Previously, Dubois held the WBA heavyweight title from 2022 to 2023. In December 2016, Dubois won his first senior domestic title at the Great Britain Boxing Championships in his 6th senior contest. Daniel Dubois, number 3. Number 4, currently active heavyweights, Anthony Joshua. Anthony AJ Joshua currently has 32 fights in his professional career, 28 wins, 4 losses, 25 knockouts. We got some good knockout rates here because they are heavyweights, right? That's what they do. They knock people out for a living. And Joshua's 89.2% knockout ratio. Take a quick look at AJ coming in at number 4. Another British boxer. 3 out of the top 4 is British boxers. The American heavyweight is looking bad right now. Looking bad. I don't even have an American in the top 10. Wow, currently active ones. When I did the all-time, damn near the whole 10 was American, but things have changed. Yeah, Anthony Joshua, another British boxer, and 2012 Olympic gold medalist in the super heavyweight division. Between 2015 and 2016, Joshua held the Commonwealth and British heavyweight titles. He also twice held the Unified World Heavyweight Championship from 2016 to 2021. In April 2023, Joshua defeated Jermaine Franklin after losing to Alexander Usyk in 21 and 22. As of June 2025, right now, well, last month, a couple weeks ago, well, 7 days ago, it's only July 7th. As of last week, Joshua hadn't fought since losing to Daniel Dubois. Yeah, haven't fought since then. Okay. Yeah. I should have put as of July, but June was just last week. Okay. Okay, number 5, Joseph Parker. Top 10 active heavyweights. Number 5, Joseph Parker. Currently has 39 fights, 36 wins, 3 losses, 24 knockouts for Joe Parker. Okay. Now he's from New Zealand and the current holder of the WBO interim heavyweight title since 2024. Parker previously held the WBO heavyweight title from 2016 to 2018 after he beat Andy Ruiz Jr. Now Parker turned pro in 2012 and has won against notable opponents. In 2018, he faced Anthony Joshua in a highly publicized fight where he displayed remarkable tenacity. Joe Parker, and he beat Deontay Wilder too, remember? Number 6, Ajit Carbayel, number 6 on the list of current top 10 heavyweights. Ajit Carbayel. Carbayel currently has 26 fights, 26-0, 18 knockouts for Ajit Carbayel. Yeah, I like Ajit Carbayel. Yeah, I think he's gonna do some damage when he the big names get in there with him, the biggest names. But Usyk, Fury, I think they'll be gone. I don't think they will ever face Carbayel. But I like Carbayel. Ajit Carbayel, he's number 6. Okay, Ajit is number 6. Come on, Ajit. I used to like you. Oh, there he is. Couldn't get him up. Okay, Ajit Carbayel, he's a German-born Kurdish boxer, right? And he's currently the WBC interim champion. Born in 1992 in Leverkusen, Germany, Carbayel has held the EBU, European Boxing Union heavyweight title, twice between 2017 and 2024. In February of this year, he defeated Zhilei Big Bang Zhang in Saudi Arabia to win the WBC interim heavyweight title. Carbayel's parents are from Turkey, and he fights out of Germany. Ajit Carbayel. Number 7 is Zhilei Zhang. Speaking of Zhilei Zhang, Zhilei Zhang. Zhilei currently has 31 fights, 27 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 22 knockouts. With Zhilei Big Bang Zhang. It ain't a bad knockout ratio. That's what these big guys do. Zhilei Zhang has 81.4% knockout ratio. Okay, let's talk about Big Bang real quick. 81.4% knockout ratio. Okay, let's touch on Big Bang Zhang. A couple more, then we're gonna get into these underrated fighters. Okay. Oh, there we go. Jarrell Hattie and Kennesaw Love 1 in the building. Salute. Jarrell Hattie and Kennesaw Love 1. We just talking about some top. We're gonna go all the way from heavyweight all the way through. Look at the top 10 currently active fighters since we did the all times. We had heavyweight today, all the way down. Jarrell, salute Jarrell and Kennesaw Love 1, and Donnie Williams in the building. What's up, Donnie? How was everybody's weekend? Yeah, we in fight week for 2 huge cards. We got the big women's card Friday, all women's card from England. Headlined by Katie. Nah, is that in England? I'm not sure where that's at. But it's all women headlined by Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. And then we got Shadeja Green versus Savannah Marshall on there. Alicia Baumgartner on the card. Chantel Cameron. All the huge names in women's boxing on this card, man. That's going to be a big one. Then we got the one Saturday, the headline by Berlanga and Shiraz. And I think the fight everybody want to see is Shakur and Zepeda. That's Saturday. And Subriel Matias on the card too. But where were we? Zhilei Zhang. Yeah, I go off in the left field again. Zhilei Zhang, yeah. Big Bang. Yeah, I told you he has 31 fights, 27-3-1 draw. 1 tie. 1 draw, tie, whatever. 84% knockout ratio for Big Bang. Now, Zhilei Zhang is a Chinese heavyweight boxer, an Olympic silver medalist. He had the WBO interim heavyweight title from 2023 to 2024. I think Joseph Parker took that up off of him. He's the first Chinese boxer to compete for an interim WBO title. And Zhang's knockout win over Joe Joyce in London in 2023 made him a star in China, with over 50 million people tuning in for that fight. 50 million. As of April 2025, the Ring Magazine ranks Big Bang Zhang as the world's 7th best active heavyweight. And I got him at 7. Look at that. The Ring Magazine must have saw my ranking. They got him at 7 too. Yeah, they all copy me. Ring Magazine, ESPN, BoxRec, all of them copycats. Yep, I got him at 7. I had him at 7 before the Ring Magazine. I didn't go by Ring Magazine. This is my rankings. And Ring Magazine gonna copy me and put him at 7. They got something. Number 8, Martin Bakole. They all copy me. BoxRec, ESPN, all of them. Martin Bakole. Yeah. Martin Bakole is number 8. Okay. Let's got a couple more. And Martin Bakole is currently 24 fights. He's won 21, lost 2. He has 1 draw, 16 knockouts. 5 went the distance, but he don't have that many fights. But still 76.1. As he get more wins and go up, then they get higher, you know. How that works. But Martin Bakole. Now he's a Congolese heavyweight boxer. He trains in Scotland. His explosive style and charisma have made him a global idol, particularly in Latin America and Asia. In February 2025, he challenged for the WBO interim heavyweight title, and Joe Barker stopped his butt. Bakole is a younger brother of former cruiserweight boxing world champion Ilunga Makabu. I did not know that until yesterday. Remember, Makabu, the one Canelo was going to fight? Bakole's his little brother. I did not know that. Yeah. Some consider Bakole a potential threat to the division's most famous name. He kind of came back in there on short notice against Parker, though. And, it didn't look like he was in shape at all, right? He already big in pot belly, but he was even bigger and more pot belly for the Parker fight. Yeah, but I did not know he was Ilunga Makabu's brother. Wow. I just found that out yesterday. I was reading over this. I was like, what? Mm-hmm. Okay, number 9, Fabio Wardley. 19-0, 1 draw, 18 knockouts. That's a serious knockout right there. Only one person has went the distance. 18 knockouts in 19 fights. 94.7%. Wow. 94.7%. Okay, he's number 9. Then we're going to get into these underrated fights. Okay. Who did I just say? Fabio Wardley. Come on, there's Fabio Wardley. I had technical difficulties. I didn't get pictures. Now, he's another British heavyweight boxer from Suffolk, known for his aggressive style and powerful punches. He's held the Commonwealth title since 2022, current British Commonwealth title champion, current Commonwealth champion. And he's had the British title from 2023 to 25. So right now he's got the Commonwealth and the British title. That's pretty big over there in Europe. Now, since June 2025, he had the World Boxing Association interim heavyweight title. So he got the Commonwealth title, the British title, and the WBA interim. And Wardley fights under Queensbury Promotions and promoter Frank Warren. And finally, coming in at number 10, Filip Hrgovic. Philip got 19 fights, 18 wins, 1 loss, 14 knockouts. Told you all these guys got decent knockout rates because they're the big boys. That's what they do. They knock each other out. That's 77.7 for Hrgovic. Last one, Filip Hrgovic. And we're going to get into it. Croatian. Filip is Croatian. Okay. He's from Croatia. Filip Hrgovic. Yeah. Yeah, he's a Croatian pro boxer. Fights in the orthodox stance, favoring his right hand. Nicknamed El Animo, right? Fights out of Zagreb, Croatia. As an amateur, Hrgovic won a gold medal in the 2010 World Youth Championships and the 2015 European Championships. He also took bronze at the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, super heavyweight division. In 2024, he challenged for the IBF interim heavyweight title. I think that was against Dubois, wasn't it? Dubois stopped it. That was the 5 versus 5, wasn't it? Yeah, Eddie Hearn got Frank Warren, people destroyed Eddie Hearn. Okay, let's get into the most underrated, most underrated fighters of all time. They done changed the screen up on me, man. I am totally confused. There's Sam Langford right there. What is Sam? Oh, he's first or second. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, there we go. Well, how's everybody today? Hope everybody had a great weekend. Good to see you right here on the other side of it again. We got a big week of boxing history coming up for you. There's Define Arnie One in the building. What's up, Define Arnie One? Blessings right back to you, bro. Hope you had a great weekend. We right back at it. Another big week coming at you. Friday, we're gonna look at Arturo Gatti and the big trilogy with Mickey Ward. We're gonna look at both of them. And then we're gonna do a deep dive into their trilogy. So the life and career of Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti for the Profile Friday. Then we're gonna go deep on their trilogy, all three fights. That's coming up Friday. Algeria is boxing around the world Thursday. We're going to boxing going around the world now instead of did all the states. So Algeria. That's kind of a nice little history on Algeria this weekend too. Yeah. Okay. But now, the most underrated boxers of all time. Some of them, because you never can get all of them, you know. Always leave somebody out. So yeah, some of the most underrated boxers of all time. They done changed the screen up, man. Used to be go up, now it's going sideways. Come on, YouTube, stop. I just figured that one out. Wow, okay. So let's go. The Drunk Irishman in the building. What's up, the Drunk Irishman? Mm-hmm. Everybody, subscribe to the Drunk Irishman. There's nothing fire content. Great short videos over there. Salute the Drunk Irishman. He put my name in the same sentence with Scrapbook Boxing last week. I'm still walking on the air from that. Y'all know who Scrapbook Boxing is? Drunk Irishman put my name in the same sentence with Scrapbook Boxing. That's the historian, one of the historians of historians, Scrapbook Boxing. But appreciate you, Drunk Irishman. We're gonna take a look at the some of the most underrated boxers of all time. And I say some because when you make these lists, you never can get everybody. But I got an honorable mention at the end too. Okay. All right, so now boxing is a funny old game. Now, like baseball, football, and basketball have endless statistics for measuring achievement. For fighters in boxing, the only stats that really matter are wins and losses, right? Boxers don't play in leagues. And many rules are unwritten in boxing. And sometimes greatness goes largely unrecognized for some fighters. But the world has long been in love with the sweet science and the brawler, boxers, and technicians that have provided us with legendary battles for centuries, right? Centuries. Now, while the likes of Muhammad Ali, Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Julio Cesar Chavez, Canelo Alvarez, fighters like that have all become household names. It is easy to forget some of the great warriors of yesterday. They were contenders and even champions. And with a break or two, they could also have been household names. But unfortunately, boxing is a sport that only affords a place in the pantheon of greats to certain men or women. Or at least that's how it can seem sometimes, right? Now, in the modern age, where money speaks the loudest, it is difficult for the average fan to appreciate the fighters that get the job done without being flashy, trashy, or attracted to the millions of casual viewers that spend their money to watch them win or lose. Yeah, if you're not flashy, trashy, just get the job done. It's hard to become a household name. You know, in the age of social media and all of that, you got to do something to be noticed. Okay? Now, over the years, there have been fighters that stood head and shoulders above their contemporaries. yet are not awarded the praise they rightfully deserve. That's what we're going to focus on today. Okay? Some of these fighters stood head and shoulders above their contemporaries but still don't get recognized. So let's take a look at some of the all-time greats who really deserve a little more respect than they got or still get over the years, okay? Let's take a shot. Okay, first, I'm gonna take a shot on turning this music down. So they'll change the screen, look at everything going sideways. Damn, okay. Here we go. Damn, I forgot what today's show was about for a minute there. Most underrated fighters of all time. Number one, Sam Langford. Got to start out with Sam. Sam Langford, number one. I got pictures of these people. Now, the most underrated boxer of all time. No argument. There's little doubt that Sam Langford is just that. Okay? His career record was 181 wins, 34 losses, 38 draws. He's in the 100 knockout club, okay? He should get noticed just for that, right? A total of 253 fights in his career, 128 knockouts. And on his resume is lightweights, middleweights, even heavyweights, okay? And at just 5'7" tall, Langford was not blessed with height or a large frame, but his punching power and skill inside the ropes were nothing short of superhuman. All-time great boxer Harry Wills, a 6'2" heavyweight, once spoke of Langford. Wills said, "When Sam Langford hits you in the body, right, you kind of look around, half expecting to see his glove sticking out of the other side of your body." That's how hard Sam was punching. And then Harry said, "When Sam hit you on the chin, you didn't think at all until they woke you up." And he said, "When Sam knocked me out in New Orleans, I thought he had killed me." That's what another all-time great, Harry Wills. He fought Sam 24 times, by the way. That's got to be the record. They fought each other 24 times. That's crazy, ain't it? Wow. They fought each other 24 times. But he said when Sam knocked him out in New Orleans, he thought Sam had killed him. That's how hard Sam was punching. The Langford had a ferocious self-belief and would take on anybody, regardless of size or weight. And with his incredible power and technique, he would flatten opponents. He seemed to truly defy his small stature and was one of the most feared fighters of his time. Yet, somehow, his legend is almost forgotten. You know, it takes historians and box historians like me to bring him up. You know, they talk about that era, Jack Dempsey, Jack Johnson, Harry Greer, but nobody talks about Sam Langford. You got to be deep in the boxing to remember Sam. But he was incredible. ESPN calls him the greatest boxer nobody knows, and the greatest boxer to never win a championship. In one major championship fight, and they robbed him. He won the fight and they robbed him. Sam Langford. I could stay on Sam for the whole 2 hours, but let's move on. Talking about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Carlos Zarate. B3. What's up, B3? B3 TV. Is that the B3? Is that our B3? Or another B? But salute B3. B3 TV. Good to see you today. We're talking about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. We're just up to the second one. First one was Sam Langford. Carlos Zarate. Carlos. Now, does it seem like Latin fighters are often overlooked when naming the greatest? Any list of the greatest fighters, pound for pound, of the last half century that doesn't include Carlos Durante is uninformed. Born in Mexico City, Durante had a career record of 66 wins, 4 losses, 70 fights. This is incredible. But tell you, listen to this now. Listen closely. Okay, 66 wins, 4 losses, with an eye-popping 63 knockouts, 95.4% knockout ratio. That means 9 out of 10 people he fought, he stopped them. They didn't go the distance. Now, twice he scored knockouts in over 20 consecutive fights. I'm gonna break that down for you. He came out of the gate, 25 wins, no losses, all 25 by knockout. Okay, in his 26th fight, he won it, but it went the distance. So he's now 25-0, 25-0, 26-0 with 25 knockouts, okay? Then, his next 26 fights were all by knockout, okay? Did you hear that? First 25 by knockout, 1 decision, next 26 by knockout. So now he's 52-0. So at that point, he was 52-0 with 51 knockouts. Carlos Durante. And not even a household name. Nobody else has ever done that before or since. Nobody. 51 out of 52 fights, knockouts, right out the gate. Okay? Nobody has ever matched that before or since. Durante was one of the great punchers of all time in any weight division, fighting in 4 weight classes during his career: super featherweight 130, featherweight 126, super bantamweight 122, and bantamweight 118. I went backwards. I started at 130 and I went backwards, but super featherweight, super bantamweight, and bantamweight. He finally won the 118-pound bantamweight title in 1976, 6 years after his pro debut. And he held the title until 1979. He left the ring for 5 years, then returned to win 12 of his last 14 fights. Carlos Durante was Ring Magazine's Fighter of the Year in 1977, and he was voted the #1 bantamweight of the 20th century by the Associated Press sports writers in 2014. Now, listen to this. This is important here. Durante attended a ceremony in Houston when he was voted the greatest bantamweight ever by the Houston Boxing Hall of Fame. And that's significant because you know who the Houston Boxing Hall of Fame is made up of. The Houston Boxing Hall of Fame is made up of former and current fighters. No writers, no historians, no fan, nothing, just current and former fighters. And he was voted the greatest bantamweight ever by them. So that's significant, okay? So whenever you hear the Houston Boxing Hall of Fame, pay attention because that's all fighters, current or former. Durante, the greatest bantamweight ever by the Houston Boxing Hall of Fame, okay? These are current and former fighters. Thomas Hill in the building. What's up, Thomas Hill? How are you today? Yeah, we talking about, what are we talking about? Some of the most underrated, I keep saying some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Carlos Durante isn't even a household name, man. 52-0, 51 knockouts. 2 20-plus knockout streaks in his career. Nobody else has ever done that before or since. Nobody. Okay? So the most underrated fighters of all time. Next is, I don't even know what the curse said. They done changed the screen. Larry Holmes, the Eastern Assassin. There's Larry, the Eastern Assassin. Larry Holmes. Now, despite having a terrific nickname, the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes was never a box office draw. He was, however, a superb technician, one of the best boxers in heavyweight boxing history. He was a superb technician and one of the best boxers in heavyweight history. With a left jab, fully to equal or better than Muhammad Ali's. Okay? He learned it from Ali and improved on it. Okay? Now, Holmes was the World Boxing Council heavyweight champion for nearly 6 years, 1978 to 1983. He had the IBF till 85. Okay? Drunk Ashman said, I still think Ruben Oliveira is a greater bantamweight than Carlos Durante. Okay, you got your Ruben is in here. I got a Ruben as honorable mention. Drunk Irishman, but he's in here. But the Drunk Irishman, Carlos was picked by former fighters and by all fighters. The Houston Boxing Hall of Fame is former and active fighters. That's significant there. But not a bad choice. Ruben Oliveira, I ain't mad at you at all. Okay, but appreciate you, Drunk Irishman. Yeah, we're on the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. Now, Holmes should not be remembered for his ill-advised comeback in which he came out of retirement at age 38 to fight Mike Tyson, right? And lost on a 4th-round knockout. That was crazy. Don King coached him out of retirement. Instead, Holmes should be remembered for his peak performances, most notably the incredible 15th round he had against Ken Norton in 1978. That's where he first won the title, okay? Now, many boxing historians call that round the greatest in boxing history. 15th round, Holmes and Norton, 1978. Holmes had 75 fights during his career. He won 69, 6 losses, 44 knockouts for the Eastern Assassin. Yeah, Larry Holmes. Okay, some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Next, Wilfred Benitez. Wilfred Benitez, the 5th king. There's Wilfred. Wilfred Benitez. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, now Benitez is a classic case of being overshadowed by his contemporaries. A textbook definition of being overshadowed by his contemporaries. Now, many boxing historians, fans, and media view Benitez as the 5th king, right, of the 1980s, along with Hearns, Leonard, Hagler, and Duran. After all, Benitez was involved in extremely important, closely fought battles with 3 of the 4 kings, right? He lost by TKO to Sugar Ray Leonard in a 15-round stoppage that has been criticized often over the years. Now, Benitez was badly cut in that fight, but he still seemed more than capable of defending himself, right? Through the final seconds of the final round. And it was the 15th round. I don't think it should have been stopped either. Now, to be fair, it should be noted that he was clearly behind on points, but he could have got a knockout. Should have let him go out on the shield, okay? And then he beat Roberto Duran early in 1982, and he lost to Thomas Hearns later that same year. So he fought 3 out of the 4 kings in great fights, right? And Benitez had 62 fights in his career, 53 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw, 31 knockouts. And Benitez was a defensive wizard and a boxing prodigy with a track record for hanging tough in the deep waters. On his best night, Benitez was a major problem for anyone at 147. Wilfred Benitez definitely gets overlooked and underrated when talk turns to the all-time great welterweights. No question about it. He's high up on the list of underrated. He's no kind of order, just, But yeah, Benitez, classic case of being overshadowed by his contemporaries. He's the 5th king. Okay? Benitez is the 5th king. Mm-hmm. Okay, next, underrated fighters. Ken Norton. There's him and Muhammad right there. Muhammad Ali. Ken Norton. Yeah. Definitely underrated. Okay. Man, this is crazy. It pays the screen up on me. Bear with me for a moment, please. I'm sorry. They don't even. There we go. Ken Norton is next. There's Ken and Muhammad Ali. Okay. Now, Ken Norton did not start boxing until he was a Marine in his early 20s. Ken was such a great athlete that the state of Illinois, where Ken went to high school, instituted the Ken Norton rule during his high school years to limit the number of events a competitor could compete in a track meet, in a track and field meet, to prevent athletes like Ken Norton from winning the entire meets by themselves. Ken was entering in every event and winning the entire meet by itself, so Illinois State made a rule limiting the number of events that one athlete could compete in, called the Ken Norton rule. Okay? Now, Norton did have flaws as a fighter. Although some of the criticism of his chin is overstated, right? Because listen to this. His chin wasn't that bad. That's overstated. His 4 knockout losses were against George Foreman, Ernie Shavers, and Jerry Cooney. 3 of the most powerful punchers in boxing history. A lot of people got knocked out by those 3. So if somebody get knocked out by George Foreman, Ernie Shavers, and Jerry Cooney, you can't say they got a bad chin, okay? Now, his 4th knockout was against Jose Luis Garcia, and that came early in his career when he was still developing as a fighter. But yeah, knocked out by Foreman, Shavers, and Cooney, you can't say that person has a bad chin because they knocked out a lot of people, okay? Now, Norton gave Muhammad Ali as much trouble as anybody ever did, except Joe Frazier. Now, he lost 2 or 3 fights to Ali, which were all razor-thin, hotly contested decisions. And Ali admitted in 1979 his first retirement in the late 70s was partly due to an unwillingness to face Norton in a 4th fight, because Norton had got elevated to the WBC championship, right? And he was standing right there waiting to face Ali a 4th time after Ali got beat Spinks in the rematch. And Ali said he did not have it in him to fight Norton the 4th time. And Norton had 50 fights in his career. He won 42, lost 7, 1 draw, 33 knockouts. 78.5% knockout ratio, hovering right around 80%. Ken Norton, okay? And the Drunk Irishman said, it's a shame we never got Frazier versus Norton. That could have been the 4 kings of the 1970s, when Norton was always looked at as the other king. Same as Wilfred Benitez. Great point, Drunk Irishman. And Drunk Irishman, Norton and Frazier played the friendship card on us, man. How much they was friends. Yeah, they played the friendship card. Mm-hmm. But that is a great point. Norton is very similar to Benitez from the 80s and the 70s. Norton, yep. You talk about Ali, Frazier, and Ali, Frazier, Foreman, and Norton is the other king, the left out king. You're exactly right, Drunk Irishman. Great point. Okay, but yeah, next we talk about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Next is man, I don't know what they doing to me. Juan Manuel Marquez. Talk about some underrated fighters. JMM, Juan Manuel. Very underrated. Top 5 when you talk about Mexican fighters. To me, top 5. Some publications don't even have him in the top 10. Okay, that's crazy. Now, Marquez is one of the greatest fighters of the recent past. Okay. He retired around 17, something like that. He was consistently underrated throughout his career. He didn't get his first title shot for 6 years, okay? And then after he lost his first shot, it was against Freddie Norwood, it was another 4 years before he got another title shot. That's 2 title shots in 10 years for an all-time great first ballot Hall of Famer, okay? Now, look, compare that to Michael Katsidis, who fought in the same era as Marquez. Katsidis was a title challenger. Marquez stopped him in November of 2010. After losing to Marquez, Katsidis went directly to a title fight against Robert Guerrero. Katsidis lost that fight to Guerrero. Then he beat a journeyman in his next fight, then immediately got another title shot against Ricky Burns. And compared that type of favorable treatment to an all-time great like Marquez and the grind he had to go through, the legendary Juan Manuel Marquez. He had to go through to get 2 title shots in 10 years. And this guy that he stopped get 2 in 3 fights. And he lost all 3 of them. Right? I don't know what they had against Juan Manuel. Right? And that shows Juan Manuel Marquez has been overlooked and underrated for a long time, okay? And it never changed throughout his career. Going into his 4th fight with Manny Pacquiao, very few writers were giving him a chance, despite his competitive track record against Pacquiao, right? Ring Magazine published a list of the greatest Mexican champions of all time in 2011, when Marquez was still active. That ranking had him at number 10, behind both Marco Antonio Barrera and Erik Morales. Now, he never fought Morales, but he defeated Barrera. So I got to go against the Bible of boxing on that one. Should have definitely been in front of Barrera, right? But Marquez had 64 fights in his career, 56 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw, 40 knockouts. Juan Manuel Marquez, another grossly overrated fighter. Top 5 Mexican fighters of all time. Okay? Top 5. Now we go back a ways here. Tiger Flowers. Tiger Flowers. We go back a ways. Okay, Tiger Flowers. Theodore Flowers. He had 2 nicknames. Tiger, that's the one he's remembered by, and the Georgia Deacon. He would recite passages from the Bible before every one of his fights. Now, his record was exemplary. 136 wins, 15 losses, 2 draws, 56 knockouts. And he fought the best of his era, including Sam Langford, the Tory Bulldog Mickey Walker, and Harry Greb, who he beat in 1926 at Madison Square Garden to become the first Black American and the first Southpaw to win the middleweight championship. Okay? Now, Tiger died young. Now, before he could fight a rematch with Mickey Walker, against who he lost a controversial decision, he died following surgery to remove a scar tissue around his eyes. Isn't that something, going surgery to remove scar tissue around your eyes and die? But that was back in the era, medicine. They didn't have all the technology they had nowadays and stuff. But Tiger was a terrific fighter who doesn't get the recognition he deserves and earned. Tiger Flowers. Okay, Theodore Tiger Flowers. We're talking about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Next, we have B-Hop, Bernard Hopkins. Okay, underrated. Now, Bernard Hopkins was simply a freak of nature. He exuded professionalism inside the ropes, although he was often known to employ the dark arts of boxing in order to get his way. The referee wasn't looking. B-Hop wasn't beyond going low or back behind the head or something. Hey, you get away with it, it ain't wrong, right? Now, it's one of the most impressive boxers to have ever stepped foot in the squared circle. It is curious that B-Hop does not get the love he deserves from many boxing fans, right? In a career that spanned 28 years, B-Hop won his last title, which was the light heavyweight crown, WBA title, at the age of 49 years old. This accomplishment gained him worldwide attention. Yet, it still felt that not everyone could comprehend what an achievement that was for a man of Hopkins' age, specifically in a division outside of the heavyweight division, right? Now, what probably didn't help his cause was that the world was used to Hopkins' achievements and excellence, right? So, the executioner engaged in some of the greatest fights of all time against some of the greatest boxers of his era. Roy Jones Jr., Austin De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad, Winky Wright, Glenn Johnson, and many more, right? Of the creme de la creme of boxing's finest fell to the hands of Hopkins, right? And there is an argument that he has one of the greatest resumes in boxing history. And that resume ended at the age of 51 years old. Wow. And he had 55 wins, 8 losses, 2 draws, 32 knockouts for B-Hop. Yeah, Bernard Hopkins. Yeah. Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more in the building. What's up, Bruce Gas? And yeah, let me see what the drunk Irishman said in a moment. Let me write Bruce Gas' name down. Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. We got that quizzes on Tuesdays, right, Bruce? I'm scared to go over there because I'll be at like 25th, 30th place. The Boxtorian can't be that far back, man. But I do. Salute, Bruce. Okay, Drunk Irishman says, the fact that he went the distance with a prime crusher at 50 years old is insane. Isn't it, Drunk Irishman? Wow. Here's my favorite sister-in-law, Terry Akins. What's up, Terry? How are you today? We talking about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Mm-hmm. Terry and her husband David comes over and watches boxing with us when we get the big fights. Got a big one Friday night, Terry, all women's card. Okay. But salute, Terry. Okay. Yeah, we talking about some of the underrated most underrated fighters of all time. Michael Spinks. Mm-hmm. There's Michael and Larry Holmes. Al Booker. What's up, Al Booker? How are you today? Good to see you, Al Booker. Still working on the hats, Al Booker, for the members. Okay. Then bear with me. But salute Al Booker, my only member. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, that's great, Terry. That was you and David's weekend over there. All right, Michael Spinks. Yeah, one of the most underrated fighters of all time. I'm going to tell you why. Now, greatness falls between the cracks. Michael Spinks' greatness falls between the cracks. Now, he became the first light heavyweight champion to win the heavyweight belt in 1985 when he beat Larry Holmes. Now, Spinks won all 32 of his fights except one. But unfortunately, the one he lost is the one everyone most remembers him for, and that hurts his legacy, right? That's why he's so underrated. It was a spectacular first-round knockout loss at the hands of Iron Mike Tyson. That's when he was Iron Mike Tyson, right? In 1988. Okay? Now, without that fight on his record, we would remember Michael Spinks as one of the greatest fighters of the 1980s with his trip hammer right hand punch called the Spinks Jinx. Yep, but that Mike Tyson fight overrides everything he did before that. That was his last fight. It's a fact. Ask the average person about Michael Spinks. First thing they bring up is a 91-second fight. They don't bring up he was the first reigning light heavyweight champion with the heavyweight title. He won all his fights before the 91-second fight. He ruled the light heavyweight division that was arguably the greatest of all time in the 1980s. But you bring up Michael Spinks, first thing a person gonna start talking about. Michael Tyson knocked him out in 91 seconds. Yeah, very underrated. 32 total fights, 31 wins, 1 loss, 21 knockouts. Michael Spinks. Yup. Should have went up there messing with Mike Tyson. Definitely messed his legacy up, man. One of the most underrated fighters of all time. Michael Spinks. Okay, let's move on. Man, 3 o'clock. This might be a 2-part show. Damn. You know I gotta have him on here. This is one of my favorites here. I'm biased when it comes to this guy. Ricardo Lopez. He is underrated, but he fought down there in those lower weight classes. That's the reason, you know. Yeah. Ricardo Lopez fights up around like welterweight. He's a household name. Bruce Gass says, was Michael Spinks beating Holmes be as big as Bud beating Canelo if it happened? That is a very good question, Bruce Gass. Woo! That is a very good question right there. I've never thought about that like that. Wow. What y'all think about that, what Bruce just said? Was Michael Spinks beating Larry Holmes as big as Bud beating Canelo if it happens? Wow, that is a good question there, Bruce Gass. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I think Bud might be bigger because Spinks just went from like heavyweight to heavyweight. Bud's coming from 147 with one fight at 154. So, Bruce, I would go with Bud being bigger. But that is a very good question. Yeah. Bud coming along a lot further. Really coming from 147 because he only had one fight at 154, you know? So, yeah. But that's a good question, Bruce. I never thought about that. Wow. That is a good question there. Okay. Yeah, Ricardo Lopez is next. Finito. Okay. Now, it is rare for any fighter in the history of boxing to amass a record of 51 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 38 knockouts, okay? It is even more rare for any fighter to completely and utterly dominate a division for 16 years, pulverizing opponent after opponent, like Finito did, right? It is almost unheard of for a fighter to amass such an impressive record and resume, yet almost be treated with as much silence as the great Ricardo Lopez. Because he fought, it was done at 105. That done like 147, 135 or something. He'd be a household name. But you know, fought down in the lower weight classes. Now Lopez was an incredibly gifted fighter that was peerless in the minimum weight division from the mid-1980s up until the late 1990s. Now, given that this division was the traditionally not thought of as worthy of pay-per-view coverage, Lopez was not afforded the same level of publicity or attention as some of his heavier peers, right? But regardless, this did not stop the Mexican phenom from amassing one of the greatest resumes in boxing history. Lopez may be remembered as the greatest 105-pounder of all time, but drop his name into a conversation about with the average fan about boxing and see how many really know this pugilistic superstar. Not many, okay? One of the most underrated of all time, Ricardo Lopez. But because of where he fought at 105, you know, have you ever seen a pay-per-view fight at 105? Never. Never. Might be on the undercard of somebody else headlining the pay-per-view, but a 105-pound fight headlining the pay-per-view? Never. Anybody ever seen one? I can't think of one. Okay, Drunk Irishman says, is this underrated Hall of Fame fighters? No, just underrated. Underrated, period. Drunk Irishman. Just underrated, yeah. I got some honorable mentions too, because you can't get them all, you know. Isn't that a great question to Al Booger about yeah, I agree, Drunk. That's what I said, Drunk Irishman. Bud beating Canelo would be more impressive. It's more weight. You know, Spinks went up to because cruiserweight was around at that time. But cruiserweight hadn't been around that long either, though, about 5 or 6 years or something. But yeah, I would think Bud, but a great question. But yeah, which what I'm talking about? Okay, Bruce found one. Yeah, Michael Carbajal and was that Chiquita? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Michael Carbajal and Chiquita, right, Bruce? You know Bruce Gas gonna find one. Yeah, but that's about the only one. Yeah, but it's not a normal occurrence. Yeah, because they fought a trilogy. That's part of the biggest fight of the lower weight classes. Yeah, Humberto and Carbajal. Okay, thank you, Bruce Gas. But yeah, that was a great question too, talking about the was Bud. I think the Bud would be a bigger accomplishment though. Yeah. Okay. Ezzard Charles. Oh boy. There's Ezzard. I think that's him in Jersey Joe Walcott. Okay. Ezzard Charles. Now, Ezzard Charles was probably the greatest light heavyweight who ever fought. But he couldn't escape bad luck. He beat Archie Moore 3 times, but never got a shot at the 170-pound light heavyweight championship. And Archie Moore was champion. Right. I don't know if he was champion when Ezzard fought him, but Archie became light heavyweight champion back then, and Ezzard beat him 3 times. But Ezzard never got a shot at the title. But then he moved up to the heavyweight division. He usually faced bigger men. In 1948, he knocked out a contender named Sam Berardi, who later died of accumulated injuries sustained in that fight, right? Now, because of that, because of what happened, Charles nearly gave up boxing, but he came back a year later, right? He kickstarted his career at heavyweight, and he won the title in 1950 from his boyhood idol, Joe Louis, and he wept in his dressing room after the fight. Now, 4 years later, he lost twice to Rocky Marciano, and Rocky called Ezzard Charles the bravest man he ever fought. And referee Ruby Goldstein later said, in the second fight, he actually it was such a good fight, and Ezzard was doing so good against Rocky, Goldstein said he actually almost stopped the fight and gave it to Charles by TKO, right? And according to his success in the ring, Ezzard Charles is one of the best in the sport from the late 1940s to the late 1950s. But when ranking talent from that era, many people wrongfully placed Charles a level below Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, and Rocky Marciano. Some even rank Archie Moore in front of Ezzard, who beat Archie Moore, like I said, not once, not twice, but 3 times. That's crazy. And Ezzard finished his career with 95 wins, 25 losses, 1 draw, 52 knockouts. I appreciate all this great stuff going on in the chat. Yeah. Appreciate this. Yeah, the Cincinnati Cobra. That's right, Drunk Irishman. Cincinnati Cobra. Top 10 all time for sure. But a lot of people, when they talk about him, they put him a level below Joe Louis and Sugar Ray and Rocky. And that's not right. He's right up there with them. Rocky said he was one of his toughest fights, and the referee in the second fight almost stopped it and gave it to Ezzard. Straight out of the referee's mouth. Ruby Goldstein said that. He was the referee for that fight. Early 50s or early to mid 50s. Okay. All right. Next is Pernell Whitaker. Some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Sweet Pea. Damn, this might be a 2-parter. I got 12. No, we'll make it. I got 25. We're at number 12. Pernell. Sweet Pea. I'm getting all this good stuff in the chat going on. Okay, Sweet Pea. There's certainly a strong case for the title greatest defensive fighter of all time belonging to Pernell Whitaker, right? Now, while admittedly, Whitaker is regarded as one of the greatest among seasoned boxing historians, his standing among the average boxing fan is nowhere near where it should be. You know, given that a standout like Floyd Mayweather Jr. is often compared to Sweet Pea. It is even more baffling that he is not more appreciated, right? Isn't that crazy? Floyd get all the love he get, and he compared to Sweet Pea, but Sweet Pea don't get the same love. That's crazy. Now in the ring, Sweet Pea was far more than just a defensive master, right? The Norfolk, Virginia native was a trickster with lightning fast hand speed and an exceptional array of offensive prowess. Now he went 40 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, 17 knockouts, right? 3 of his losses came in his final 4 fights. So he really only lost 1 time in his prime, and that was a robbery, okay? He had 1 fight declared a no contest due to a positive drug test, which probably tarnished his legacy. Yeah, that right there do it. Now, multiple weight world champion and pure example of an all-around boxer, it's a shame that Sweet Pea doesn't get the respect he deserves among the average fan. Yeah, he gets it among the hardcores and the historians and the media, but the average fan, no. And that positive drug test probably had a lot to do with that, you know. Yeah. What y'all think? I think Sweet Pea is very underrated. Drunk Ivan said, I don't rate Rocky that high. Yes, retired undefeated, but hasn't got the body work as a Charles. Night and day, a much more deeper resume, for sure, yeah. Yeah, easy. Yeah, hasn't easily got the better resume than Rocky. For sure, Drunk Irishman. Next, underrated fighter is Alexis Arguello. The explosive thin man, Alexis Arguello. Yep. Some of it have to do with time past too, because a lot of these guys are back in other eras, you know. But that shouldn't be, you know. Shouldn't matter. If greatness should transcend eras and stuff, you know what I mean? But Alexis Arguello. Now, when the discussion regarding the greatest Latin American fighter of all time pops up, it's a good bet that Roberto Duran would be at the forefront of the conversation. But Alexis Arguello is a fighter that should also be one of the main topics of that conversation. Unfortunately, Arguello doesn't get the proper recognition that his great talent deserves, right? He was a 3-weight world champion. He was known for his explosive and precise punching skills and tall frame. He is easily one of the greatest featherweights to ever step into a boxing ring and one of the most efficient boxers ever. In the late 1970s, El Flaco Explosivo, or the explosive thin man in English, was regarded by many as the world's pound-for-pound best fighter, okay? His resume is stacked with impressive wins, and his style has been emulated by many of the greats that succeeded his reign at the top. Arguello is probably best known among casuals and uninformed fans for his 2 losses to Aaron Pryor in the 1980s. Yeah, that's a problem right there too. A lot of people, you know, remember him for that, but he did a lot of great work before that and after that. And he had 77 wins, 8 losses, 62 knockouts, 80.5% knockout ratio for the explosive thin man. Okay? Yeah. Alexis Arguello. The great Harry Greb is on here, okay? Talking about underrated. Harry Greb. There he is. Harry Greb. Now, Greb gets his share of all-time great status and ranking from boxing writers who give a high grade when evaluating the era he competed in. But there's virtually no existing film footage of him, right? And he often gets overlooked in conversations that attempt to compare fighters across eras. Now, Greb is unquestionably on the short list for the greatest middleweight ever, along with Sugar Ray Robinson, Marvin Hagler, and King Carlos Monzon. Now, Greb's rival Tiger Flowers should be in the conversation too when you talk about the greatest middleweight of all time. We talked about Tiger a little while ago. Now, Greb's pound-for-pound credibility is beyond reproach. He gave future heavyweight champion Gene Tunney the only loss of his career. Now, including newspaper decisions, it is believed by most boxing historians that Greb likely had around 300 total fights during his career. But BoxRec officially lists his record as 109 wins, 9 losses, 3 draws, 50 knockouts. Yeah, a lot of those were newspaper decisions, where we didn't have round limits on fights, and sometimes fights would go so far that neither fighter would continue, and they would just print a decision who won or lost in the newspaper. But officially, there was no decision, and the fight wasn't counted as a draw, win, loss, or anything. So yeah, counting those, Greb had around 300 fights, but officially 109 wins, 9 losses, 3 draws, 121 fights, 50 knockouts. The great Harry Greb. Okay? All right. Next, we have, after Harry Greb, Michael Carbajal. Bruce just mentioned him a little while ago. Yeah. One of the only pay-per-view fights in 105. Yeah, it was him and Chiquita. Humberto. Great trilogy. Michael Carbajal. Oh, that's not him. I get ready to say there's him and Chiquita, but that's not Chiquita. Because Chiquita had hair. Michael Carbajal. Talking about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Oh, Ant, what's up, Ant? Okay, I didn't even see that. Let me go back up. Yeah. Ant don't chat much, but when Ant chats, it's something significant. I got to read that. Ant says, Drunk Irishman, I agree that Rocky doesn't have the greatest resume. Personally, I show partiality to him on the basis of him squeezing as much as he could out of what he was allotted. Okay, told you. Good point, Ant. Yeah, told you. Like E.F. Hutton. When Ant McQueen speaks, people listen. But salute, Ant. Yeah. Okay, where were we? Michael Carbajal. Yeah, Michael Carbajal. Talking about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Now, Carbajal is not underrated within the boxing community, but compared to boxers in higher weight classes, he gets the same problem as Ricardo Lopez. Compared to boxers in higher weight classes, his achievements are not as widely recognized by the general public, right? Yeah, because he fought mainly 105, 108. Now, Carbajal had significant impact on the junior flyweight division, 108, particularly in gaining recognition for the division and increasing fighter compensation there, right? Oh, yeah, somebody. Oh, the guy finally showed up to fix the sink. Okay. I heard a guy out there talk to Miss Cass. I give it a grab that thing out the closet. Who is that man out there? But he come to fix it. Okay. We talk about Michael Carbajal, right? Now, he was consistently top 10 pound for pound during his prime, right? And competing against the top names of his era. And he compiled a record of 49 wins, 4 losses, 38 knockouts. That's 77.5% career knockout ratio. And Carvajal's career included a legendary trilogy with Humberto Gonzalez. That's who Bruce Gas was talking about. The one that made pay-per-view down there. Now, in their first fight, Carbajal, despite being knocked down twice, staged a comeback and defeated Gonzalez. He was known for his courage and fighting spirit, those type of performances. And he was also known for his devastating punching power and a willingness to engage in back and forth action, but always with a controlled, calculated approach, right? Now, with his skills and the success that he had throughout his career, if he had been in a higher weight class, like 135 and above, Carvajal would be a household name. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Okay? Floyd Patterson. Yeah, 45-0 in 1 year, drunk Irishman, Harry Grab. And plus, he fought 37 in that was 1919, right? 37 fights in 1917. Wow. Yeah. Those guys were just built different back then, man. Floyd Patterson makes the list underrated. Now, Floyd Patterson gave away height and reach to most of his opponents. Yet, his achievements were impressive, right? Now, when he knocked out Archie Moore to first win the heavyweight title in 1956, he was 21 years old, the youngest man to ever win the title. Now, Mike Tyson eclipsed that in 1988 at age 20. Both Cus D'Amato fighters, too, right? Now, when Patterson knocked out Ingemar Johansson, literally senseless in 1960, right? He became the first man to win back the heavyweight title after losing it, okay? Now, essentially, he was a light heavyweight in a heavyweight world. Patterson came back from every defeat, right? Winning 9 of his last 10 fights, but he lost his last fight to Muhammad Ali in 1972. His 5th round knockout of Ingemar Johansson in 1960 is called one of the greatest one-punch knockouts in heavyweight boxing history. He had 64 fights, won 55, lost 8, 1 draw, 40 knockouts. I don't know why I'm checking all these knockout rates. That's I just can't help it. 72.7% for Floyd. I didn't even have no business checking that. I knew it was under 80, but it's still not bad. 7 out of 10. Nicolino Loesch, talking about underrated fighters. Nicolino Loesch. They're talking about great defense. You always had Willie Pep, Floyd, Sweet Pea, but Nicolino Loesch right up there with him. Maybe above him, okay? The man's nickname was the Untouchable. So he better been a great defensive fighter. That's what they called him, the Untouchable. Nicolino Loesch. A defensive genius. Nicolino Loesch was one of the slickest fighters ever, known as the Untouchable. He barely got hit in his fights, and he frustrated opponents with his head movement and reflexes. Now, despite being a world champion and one of the best defensive fighters in boxing history, Loesch remains criminally underrated, right? Now, when people talking about defense, who you hear? Willie Pep, Sweet Pea, Floyd. You don't never hear about the Untouchable. But he might have been the greatest defensive fighter ever. Loesch was a master at using the ropes to wear down opponents and counterpunch. And his style prioritized skill over brutality, right? And brute force. Again, relying on reflexes and head movement to frustrate opponents. The great, legendary, excellent, outstanding Nicolino Loesch. 117 wins, 4 losses, 14 draws, 14 knockouts. Okay? 117 wins, 14 knockouts. They said he didn't have power, but he didn't need it. Okay? When nobody can hit you, you don't need power. Right? You didn't have to score that much. They can't score on you. Just fight the last 30 seconds of every round and win it because they haven't scored the entire round. Right? The Untouchable. Nicolino Loesch. Very underrated. Very. He might be one of the most underrated one on this list, Nicolino Loesch. Seriously. Winky Wright. Winky Wright. Okay. Let me see. Winky Wright. Wow, I got 25 likes. Man, that's a lot. And we still going. Can we get 30? Okay, Winky Wright. Talking about underrated fighters. Winky makes the list. Okay. Damn. That's time going by. So we got 7 more. We're going to make it. We got 7 more. Ronald Winky Wright was a defensive wizard, okay, who beat names like Sugar Shane Mosley, Felix Tito Trinidad, right? He had a tight guard and a frustrating style that made him difficult to beat. Now, despite that, he was never fully appreciated, and he had to fight for respect his entire career. 51 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 25 knockouts. Now, perhaps more underappreciated than underrated. You know what I mean? Perhaps more underappreciated than underrated. Okay. But either way, a fighter that never got his proper due. A road warrior at the highest order. He was robbed against Fernando Vargas. Although Winky did take his foot off the gas in the 12th round, right? And that cost him. He missed taking the middleweight title from Jermaine Taylor by a split draw. And it was roundly avoided by some big names from the late 1990s to around the middle of the first decade of the 2000s, to around 2005, 2006, 2006. Highly avoided. Winky was a fine technician with super defensive. He had super defense, and he tamed some good fighters who were good at attacking, like Fernando Vargas, Sugar Shane Mosley, Trinidad, and others. His masterclass against Trinidad showed how great Winky was at his absolute best. Now, if Winky Wright hadn't been so avoided during his career, he wouldn't be so underappreciated and underrated. Yeah, that goes hand in hand. A lot of the big names wouldn't fight him early, you know. And that hurt him. Terry Norris. Winding down there. Yeah, Winky and Mayweather, T Hill. Yeah. Yeah, wait a minute now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Loesch was incredible, Thomas Hill. Terry Norris is next. Now, Terry Norris retired in 1997. Okay, and when he retired, only 2 men, Joe Louis and Julio Cesar Chavez, had ever fought in more world title fights. Okay, and that's pretty remarkable considering Norris was still only 30 years old when he retired. Yeah, but only Joe Louis and Julio Cesar Chavez had ever been in more title fights than Terry Norris. Okay. Now, 3 separate times he battled back from a shocking setback or adversity to establish or reestablish himself as one of the world's best fighters. First, after suffering a sickening second-round stoppage against Julian Jackson. That was for Jackson's WBA 154-pound title. That was Norris's first world title shot. Then, after being surprisingly flattened by Simon Brown in what was expected to be a routine 13th title defense of his WBC junior middleweight title in 1993. And then after a pair of almost identical disqualification losses to Luis Santana, right? A couple of years later, after the Brown loss. Now, between all of that, however, there were some fantastic performances, thanks to his sublime speed, great reflexes, and dazzling punching power. With the 2 standouts being his thorough outclassing of future WBA middleweight champion Jorge Fernando Castro and his revenge win over Brown in 1994. Now, if the first Brown fight showed the erratic Norris's vulnerabilities, the rematch highlighted what an outstanding talent he really was, right? And by rights, Norris should really have been a superstar. Instead, despite his huge talent and many years at the top of the 154-pound weight class, he's often seen as a mere afterthought when we go back to the 1990s. Yeah, Terry Norris is hardly mentioned. 47 wins, 9 losses, 3 draws, 31 knockouts for Terry Norris. Okay, go back a ways now. Tommy Ryan, old fighter. Tommy Ryan. Yeah, he was a great 154, wasn't he, drunk Irishman? 154. Terry Norris was the man back there in the 90s, man. Yeah, I don't know how people forget about what Terry Norris did. When he retired, he'd been in more championship fights, only 2 other than Joe Louis and JCC. Was the only one that ever been in more championship fights. He was only 30 when he retired. Incredible. Now, Tommy Ryan competed from 1887 to 1907, right? He was actually one of the first fighters the term pound for pound great was used to describe, way before Sugar Ray Robinson. They was talking about pound for pound, right? Now, Ryan was a 2-weight world champion in the days when there were only 5 weight classes, right? Bantamweight, featherweight, welterweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. Flyweight, lightweight, and light heavyweight came after Ryan. Now, Ryan only lost 3 times in 105 pro fights. 2 of them to Charles Kid McCoy, who was an excellent fighter in his own right. And the other loss was a disqualification, right? Ryan was welterweight champion for 5 years between 1891 and 1896, defeating the likes of Mysterious Billy Smith and the great Non-Pariel Jack Dempsey. That was the middleweight Jack Dempsey. That's who the heavyweight took his name from, right? And after he beat Non-Pariel Jack Dempsey, he moved up to middleweight, vacated his titles. And he won the middleweight title in 1898, made 5 successful defenses, and then hung up his gloves while still champion. After Ryan retired, there was no universally accepted middleweight champion until Stanley Ketchel, the Michigan Assassin, in 1908. Yeah, y'all heard me talk about the Michigan Assassin. He came after Ryan. Now today, when discussing about the late 1800s, early 1900s greats come up, Tommy Ryan, it's hardly mentioned, but he was a great champion back then. Yes, he was. He had 87 wins, 2 losses, 14 draws, 2 no contests, 68 knockouts. 2 or 3 losses, 105 or 106 fights, because record keeping wasn't exactly accurate back then. He had either 2 or 3 losses or 105, 106 fights. 2 losses, he had 105 fights. If he had 3 losses, he had 106 fights. Let's stay back there. Since we back there, right? Wesley Ramey. Now this guy, you talk about somebody being ducked. Put your eyeglasses on to see that one. You talk about somebody being ducked. Listen to this, Wesley Ramey. Now, when fighters as great as Barney Ross, Tony Canzonieri, Henry Armstrong, and Lou Ambers, that's a who's who of the 1930s, 20s, 30s, are all either reportedly or visibly reluctant to defend their world titles against someone, you know that someone is a special fighter. Now, Canzonieri, a bona fide pound-for-pound great himself, did square off against Ramey in a non-title fight in 1933. But once he'd been on the wrong end of a wide decision loss, he flat out refused to risk his 135-pound title against the same man, Wesley Ramey, even reportedly turning down a guarantee of $25,000, this in the 30s, which was a huge amount for a title fight outside of the heavyweight division. In the Depression years, he turned down $25,000 because he had been widely beat by Ramey in a non-title fight. So he said, I don't care what they offer me. I'm not putting my title on the line against this guy because I want to keep my title. Lou Ambers, another lightweight legend, of that period, also showed no interest in facing off against Ramey, right? When he was champion. When Ambrose did lose his title, he lost it to the hard-punching Lou Jenkins, a fighter who Ramey had already beaten twice. So you see why Ambrose didn't want to fight Ramey? The guy that beat him, Ramey had beat him twice already. Now, despite having virtually no knockout power of his own, Ramey also managed to defeat world champions of the caliber of Johnny Jadek, Benny Bass, Leo Rodak, and Battling Shaw, right? Ramey was described by historians as one of the greatest scientific boxers of the 1930s, a James J. Corbett or a Gene Tunney of the lightweight division. A great fighter, sadly forgotten and overlooked. 142 wins, 28 losses. 12 draws, 11 knockouts. Yeah, they said he didn't have knockout power. 128 wins, 11 knockouts. I did his knockout rate, 0.7%. Knockout ratio below 1%. And all these champions were still scared to fight him. Okay? No knockout power. But he was one of the greatest scientific boxers of all time. They wouldn't get in there with him. Wesley Ramey. And he's forgotten and overlooked now. You talk about 30s, 40s, talk about Henry Armstrong and Joe Louis, all the Wesley Ramey is never mentioned. Not hardly mentioned, never mentioned. Okay? Couple more. Gene Fullmer. Gene Fullmer. Gene Fullmer, from that great one of those great middleweights of the 50s, greatest decade of all in middleweights, 1950s. Now, unfairly overshadowed in many respects by Carmen Basilio, Sugar Ray Robinson, and Jake LaMotta, when middleweight boxing of the 1950s and early 60s is remembered. Fullmer, the son of Utah Mormons, beat Basilio twice and certainly deserves higher ranking as a middleweight than Carmen does. He beat him twice. And Fullmer is simply a far greater fighter than Jake LaMotta in all categories. Fullmer fought Sugar Ray Robinson 4 times, winning 2, losing 1 with 1 draw. Now, to be fair, the general consensus at that time was that the draw should have gone to Sugar Ray. So it still would have only been 2-2. So he still had 2-2 against Sugar Ray. Even Sugar Ray would have got the draw. Now, before Sugar Ray, that fight, Fullmer's only real loss of any significance was the Eduardo Lausset. But Lausset was perhaps the best middleweight to have never won the division's title. Now, Fullmer fought in the 1950s, the most competitive decade in middleweight boxing history. And he won the division championship during that period. Is in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. But outside of boxing historians and some hardcore fans, it's barely remembered. 55 wins, 6 losses, 3 draws, 24 knockouts. Okay, just got a couple more. The Body Snatcher, talking about some of the most underrated fighters of all time. The Body Snatcher, Mike McCallum. Okay, Al Booger says, I was looking up old Turbo Terry fights last week. Oh, okay, Al Booger, yeah. He was in a lot of championship fights. I think very underrated, Al Booger. Okay, Mike McCallum, the Body Snatcher. Underrated guy. 49 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, 36 knockouts. Man, I'm going to hide this calculator doing this show because I just keep fooling these knockouts. 73.4%, okay, for the Body Snatcher. Now, McCallum is another great fighter, overshadowed by the quartet of Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, and Duran. But the Body Snatcher would have been a very difficult out at 154 pounds for any fighter in any era in boxing history, period, at 154, the Body Snatcher. Now, he never lost at 154, okay? Now, he didn't lose a fight until he moved up to the middleweight division and challenged Sambu Kalambe for the WBA belt. That was his first loss. He was never the same dominant force at middleweight as he was at 154 after he moved up, but he still remained one of the elite fighters in the 1990s. The body snatcher. Two more. Charlie Burley. Yeah, we're going to make it. I thought this was going to be a two-parter, but no. Charlie Burley. Okay. Now, Burley may have been more than the most underrated fighter who ever lived. Now, according to the great Archie Moore and the legendary trainer Eddie Futch, Burley was pound for pound the greatest fighter ever. Yeah, this man was like a ghost when he was fighting. Anybody ever seen it in film with Charles Burley? It was like you fighting him and you go to hit him like almost like he disappeared, man. Not moved or back or forward or side. He's like he just disappeared. Like, where is he? The man was like a ghost. Watch the film of Charlie Burley, man. The man was like a ghost in that ring. Now, Burley fought and defeated Archie Moore in 1944. He was most certainly the greatest fighter never to win a major title. He had the colored title. That Burley's induction into the Ring Magazine Boxing Hall of Fame in 1983. Legendary boxing historian, one of the greatest boxing historians of all time, Bert Sugar said, they should make a plaque with all the guys on it who ducked him. That's typical Bert Sugar. Bert Sugar said it loud too. They should make a plaque for Charlie Burley, put it in the Hall of Fame with all the people who ducked him, right? Now, Burley being so underrated is a direct result of being avoided by so many top names of his era, denying him the opportunity to prove himself against the best, okay? And finally, and I still can't believe this guy not in the Hall of Fame, the great Esteban de Jesus. I still check every now and then to see if I missed him. Can't believe he's not in the Hall of Fame, man. Esteban, the great Esteban de Jesus. That's him and Duran right there. Okay. Now, when boxing experts say Roberto Duran is the greatest lightweight of all time, part of their reasoning is the performances he had against the great Esteban de Jesus over 3 fights, right? De Jesus gave Duran the first loss of his career and the only man to beat him in the 1970s. He knocked Duran down in the rematch before losing to the Hands of Stone. The Hands of Stone. By knockout in 11 rounds. Now, Duran stopped De Jesus by 12th round TKO in the rubber match. De Jesus' career was tragically cut short due to drug addiction, right? Now, despite his talent and accomplishments, including a lightweight championship reign, his legacy is often overshadowed by his personal struggles and the fact that he is not in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I don't believe that, man. Here's exactly why De Jesus is considered underrated. Okay, he was the only man to beat Roberto Duran. How has he not noticed? During this lightweight reign, no one else managed to knock Duran down during that period. De Jesus was a very talented fighter with excellent boxing skills, known for his power and ability to counterpunch. Now, despite his accomplishments and respect from fellow boxers, including Duran, he does not get the level of respect he deserves from boxing fans, okay? Now, while some boxing historians acknowledge his talent and place him alongside the greats, many fans are unaware of his achievements and the impact he had on Roberto Duran's career, okay? In essence, Esteban de Jesus' story is a poignant example of a fighter with immense potential whose career and legacy were tragically cut short, leading to him being underappreciated by many. Now, I got some honorable mentions. You can't get everybody, right? So I got some honorable mentions that deserve to be mentioned. Okay. Battling Nelson, Harry Wills, Harold Johnson. These are honorable mentions of underrated fighters. Harold Johnson, Jack Nonpareil Dempsey, Mike Rossman, Jose Torres, Tommy Gibbons, Ernie Terrell, Oscar Bonavena, Vladimir Klitschko, Vitaly Klitschko, Kid Gavilan, Tony Zale, Marcel Cerdan, Jerry Quarry, Gene Tunney, James J. Jeffries, Bob Foster, Bob Fitzsimmons, George Dixon, Joe Gans. Wait a minute. Harry Greb was on the list. What is Harry Greb name doing on the honorable mentions? He was on there, right? Yeah, we did Harry. Sam McVeigh, Ken Overland, Holman Williams, Jimmy Bivens, Bill Graham, Ida Joffre, Luis Rodriguez, Carlos Palomino, and Buddy McGirt. I couldn't do all of those. Right, so yeah. Okay. Now, in summary, underrated boxers are those whose skill, achievements, and impact on the sport of boxing are not adequately recognized by the general public or even some boxing enthusiasts. This can be due to various factors, like overshadowed by legends. Some boxers, despite their brilliance, fought in the era of iconic fighters like, for example, Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, making it difficult for their contributions to stand out. Another reason leading to underratedness: lack of mainstream recognition. Some highly skilled boxers like Joe Calzaghe primarily built their careers in specific regions, limiting their exposure to global audiences. Another reason leading to underratedness, poor management or promotion. In some cases, questionable management or promotional decisions hindered fighters from reaching their full potential. And finally, this is a big thing that leads to underratedness: different fighting styles. Now, defensive fighters, or some people ignorantly call runners, right? Or those who prioritize technique over flashy knockouts may be less appreciated by casual fans who favor aggressive slugging styles. There's a lot of people call themselves hardcores are actually casual fans. But you gotta listen to them when they open their mouth up. They'll tell you the difference between a hardcore fan and a casual fan. Okay. Words and ways and actions speak louder than words. But in this case, words speak the loudest when they open their mouth up. Oh, they don't know shit about boxing. But there you have it. Some of the most underrated fighters of all time. Okay. Hope everybody enjoyed that. Wow. Well, we took it to the door today. Drunk Irishman says Esteban beat more champions and defended his belt a few times. Didn't Ken Norton lose his next fight after being elevated? Yeah, he lost to Holmes. Drunk Irishman. We had 4 champions in 4 months in that period, remember? Ali started out as champion, then Leon Spinks beat Ali. Then Spinks decided to fight Ali instead of his mandatory, Norton, who was elevated by the WBC. So the WBC stripped Spinks. WBA recognized the Spinks-Ali fight. Norton fought Holmes in his first fight after being elevated and lost. Yes, so you're 100% correct, Drunk Irishman. He did lose his first fight after that, right? Yeah. That's right, Alberger. Let them open their mouth. That's all you got to do. You don't have to say nothing. Let them talk, right? And it comes out every time. Every time. But I appreciate everybody today, man. We're not going to get any link time today, but we'll be back tomorrow. And Thursday is going to be boxing around the world this week is Algeria, right? And Friday, we're going to look at both the careers of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. Then we're going to break down their trilogy Friday on the profile. Gatti and Ward careers. Then we're going to break down their 3 fights they had with each other. One of the greatest trilogies of all time. Mm-hmm. Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. Yeah. Tuesday and Wednesday, I don't know what's going on. Something going to be happening. Because if it's Monday through Friday at 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. But yeah, we got a big one Friday. I know we got the Berlanga and Shiraz Shakur to pay the Saturday, but Friday is an all women's card, man. Headlined by Taylor Serrano 3. That is a big one. There's some big names in women boxing on that card. Shadeja Green and Savannah Marshall. They're not even the main event. I mean, the co-main. A lot of those fights on that card could be main events. You got Chantel Cameron, Yamalik Mercado. Did I say Alicia Baumgartner? Yeah, that is going to be. Shadeja and Savannah Marshall could be a headliner itself. That's like 3 or 4 fights down the card. Yeah, that's Friday night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, a lot of people think they shouldn't have had the trilogy since Katie won the first 2 fights. But yeah, they were very good, close, competitive fights. I don't think Katie won either one of them, to tell you the truth. But hey, the judges thought she did, and that's who counts. Right? But then Amanda gonna get another shot. But I think it's 10 rounds, 2 minutes again. Katie don't want to go no 12 rounds, 3 minutes with Amanda because she know it ain't going no 12 rounds. Amanda will get her up out of there if she get 3 minutes. You know. Okay, that's just what I think. But I appreciate everybody coming through today. Yeah, not even a rubber match drunk average. Make that something. Yeah. But I still think it deserves a trilogy, though, because of the great competitive way the first 2 fights went, you know, contested all the way, man. I just wish they had 3-minute rounds, all women's fights. And Amanda was fighting 12 3-minute round championship fights until she got to Katie. Katie said, no, we ain't doing that. You ain't getting no 3 minutes to knock me out, Amanda. You almost had me in 2 minutes. So Katie said, I ain't giving you no 3 minutes. You almost got me a couple times in 2 minutes. Yeah. Ant McQueen, Al Booger, Terry Akers, Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Great channel. I know everybody subscribed to Bruce Gas that's in here. Anybody out there listening? Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Had the quizzes over there, I believe it's Tuesday. I'm scared to go in. I'll be coming in like 25th place. Thomas Hill, B3 TV, The Drunk Irishman, another great channel. Subscribe to The Drunk Irishman if you're not. Define Arnie 1, Donnie Williams, Kensaw Love 1, the great Kensaw Love 1, and Jarrell Hattie. Mike Rim, you're great too, Jarrell. I said that the great Kensaw Love 1 and Jarrell. I meant the great Jarrell Hattie too. The great Mike Rim, the great Ray Patterson, straight out of New Jersey RP, and the legendary Mike Mazin, and Miss Cass, the executive producer of Cass Sports. Okay. She holds my employment in her hands. Yeah, so. But I appreciate everybody. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 with some more boxing history. Because if it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Everybody have a great afternoon. Appreciate y'all 1,000%. I'm out. gotta answer that. No drunk argument. I don't want to see Fury and Usyk again. I'm out.